Welcome to another episode of the vAuto podcast Retail Revival Series. I'm Randy Kobat with Cox Automotive, and I'll be your host for today's podcast. In late spring of 2021, the big story for many dealers is inventory acquisition. New car inventories are down, and so are trade-ins. It's a time when every dealer at least understands that the more cars they acquire directly from consumers, the better they'll be able to satisfy retail demand. But getting consumer cars is easier said than done, especially when companies like Carvana, Vroom, and large public dealer groups have made consumer vehicle acquisition a top priority. That's why I'm excited to feature Mike O'Toole of Mohawk Honda in today's episode. Mike and his team acquire dozens of vehicles from consumers every month, and they've found a way to distinguish their appraisals and offers from everyone else. One of the keys to Mohawk's success is the way they're willing to engage the consumer on their terms, whether they want to bring their car to the dealership or sell the car from the comfort of their home. In my conversation, Mike makes it clear that buying cars from consumers requires dedicated focus and resources. He also notes how important it is to understand as much about the consumer as you can before you engage with them about their car. Mike and his team have found buying signals data from Kelley Blue Book Instant Cash Offer invaluable to help them know more about the consumer and their intentions. Thank you for joining the podcast. Let's go to my conversation with Mike. Mike O'Toole, welcome to our vAuto podcast. How are you today?
I'm fine, Randy. Thanks very much. It's a privilege to have a chat with you and hopefully add some value.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for joining us today. I guess where I'd like to start is let's kind of set the scene, right? I understand from your dealership's website that Mohawk Honda has been around since the early 1900s and is a family-owned dealership. So tell us a little bit about the dealership and what led you to your current position.
Sure. Thanks for asking. I'm proud to be part of a group that has been around since the early 1900s. In fact, the first dealership was a Chevrolet dealership right here locally. We're just outside of Albany, New York, in this smaller metro area. But Chevrolet was the first shingle, and then Honda was actually added in the late 1960s.
Sure.
Early 70s, and it's been a robust addition since then. Right now, we are currently a market leader in volume for both new Hondas and also pre-owned vehicles in the area, which we're super proud of. Myself, I've been now over 25 years in the business and a lot of different seats. In fact, most of the seats in the front of the house. But I've really focused on used vehicles as a way to create a foundation for the company that I'm with, and I find it's really a differentiator in making a successful dealership move forward in all parts and retain customers. So that's really been my focus, and really happy to evolve with the different technologies that are available, and things like partnering with Cox Automotive and Instant Cash Offer and things are a big part of that. So I'm really happy to be involved.
That's awesome. So we're talking in mid-May. So how has your store been doing so far in 2021 in terms of new and used vehicle sales?
Well, our new and used vehicle sales are right on par with where we ended 2020. So as we all came out of the pandemic type conditions in the year 2020, there was some uncertainty as to where that volume level and sales and acquisition strategies and a lot of things would play out. And so far, we are right on par. We're a dealership that retails about 6,500 units a year, with about 3,200 of those being used. So we're almost on a one-to-one basis, which for us is the goal for 2021, and we're right on pace to meet that goal. So we're happy about that.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, I would imagine, like the rest of the industry, you're really feeling the pinch around inventory. How have you been dealing with the challenge that we have right now?
Well, the challenge is definitely there, and we feel it a bit more so far in new car inventory availability. And of course, with chip shortage and other factors are really making new vehicle allocations very tight, if not non-existent. So there's been a shift to used vehicle inventory, and as we've seen, as it relates to used vehicle values, wholesale and retail, there's been a dramatic uptick and increase that seems to, who knows when it's going to stop, but it may level off soon. And our combat to that is that we are lucky to have 40 years worth of satisfied customer database that continue to come back to us. And between a larger lease portfolio and the ability to speak with thousands, tens of thousands of clients every year, we have the ability to continue to funnel that inventory flow to our front line and keep us in good shape.
Yeah, that's great. Those long-term customers are really, really valuable, and that's I hear that a lot in our industry. And as their families grow and as they have a need for additional transportation, it's always great to be able to go back to those long-term customers.
Absolutely. Yep. It's really what we owe most of our success to. And the second part to that, and just as important, is to make sure that our staff are really united with a single purpose and our goal of satisfying those customers, because without that part, the repeat with all the disruptors in the market and all the options that consumers have and where they can go to buy or sell vehicles, it seem unlimited at this point. So we need to be on our A game every day, all day. So I'm glad to say our team has done a great job with that so far.
That's awesome. One of the solutions that you mentioned was Kelley Blue Book Instant Cash Offer. And I know you have a long history of working with us. So what role has ICO played during this time in acquiring inventory over the last year or so?
Boy, Randy, the ICO process, that instant cash offer process, has never been more valuable to us than it has been in the last year and a half or so. Very similar to the way that the market and the industry was kind of force-fed a digital retailing process for dealer groups that were already on a similar process to those that didn't have any process and needed to adapt quickly. I feel like the instant cash offer program through Kelley Blue Book is now right on the forefront of consumers' minds as they realize that there are a number of avenues that they can use to sell or evaluate their vehicle. Of course, we know of some of the larger online digital stores that will buy vehicles and give quotes and make offers to consumers right while the consumer's sitting on their couch or using their cell phone while they're waiting to pick up their kid from school or anything like that. So what we've adopted is a process using the Kelley Blue Book name and the Kelley Blue Book ICO values to create additional real-time values for our customers and the ability to transact with us whenever they're ready to do so. So it's been an absolute essential part of our acquisition strategy.
That's great. So you said it's been a real important part of your ability to acquire inventory. So how many cars are you buying through the process right now?
We our average acquisition on a monthly basis. Well, so far this year, we've purchased over 200 units specifically through the Kelley Blue Book Instant Cash Offer program.
Wow.
So that equates to between 40 and 50 units per month. And I feel like we're just getting started. It seems like the potential every day is increasing as those digital online stores, those non-OEM websites are able to pull people into the market where they're very interested in receiving a validated offer online from their phone, from their couch. It's very important that we not just compete with them, but offer the same, if not better service. Mm-hmm. So we anticipate that number on an annual basis will be the best number of acquisitions we've seen ever. So we look forward to 2021 being very heavy on ICO purchases.
Wow, those are amazing results. Congratulations, Mike. That's exciting.
I was going to say the buy-in is not just of course with me and my purchasing team, but the entire dealership really understands that that's something that's right on the forefront of most of our consumers' minds, whether it's a value or selling a vehicle outright. And so it really takes a team effort to make it go around and make sure that the customer is aware that it's a very easy process, whether they're in person or on their couch researching that values.
So, and that's a great follow-up question that I have to ask, because Getting the entire dealership to embrace this process couldn't have been easy. So how did you go about doing that?
Well, it wasn't super easy, but having a great team who really are forward thinking, and in general, our company is on the cutting edge of both technology and anything new. We want to be right there. We want to be right on the front line. So the attitude overall from all the staff members, all the team members is really positive to begin with. But then what we did was we went in and we jumped in with both feet, and we committed that we were going to purchase vehicles at every opportunity. We were going to keep customers happy, and we're going to fill our front line and our wholesale line with as many cars as we can. So when we made that commitment and we started seeing success, it was very easy to maintain that buy-in from the entire staff. So that teamwork is essential, since 1, 2, or 3 people, or whatever size a purchasing team is, can't do it alone. We need everybody to make sure that we're giving the same message to all of our customers.
And was the need or the desire on your part to have the entire dealership embrace this process a function of seeing competition in your marketplace leverage this, whether that would be CarMax or Carvana, or local dealerships that were focusing more on consumer acquisition of used cars?
It was a factor. Maybe not the only reason, of course, but the message to the staff is that Carvana, Vroom, CarMax, they all have their place in the market in the digital world, and there's no reason why we or any other dealership can't do the same. And there are a lot of positives and benefits to a local store with local ties to the community, and even further, why a consumer may prefer to transact with a local dealership, as long as we make it as easy, as painless, and as aggressive as we can. And that's exactly what we've done so far, and seen some great success with it.
So tell me a little bit about how you made it easy. What does that process look like?
So some of the parts of our process, which I'll mention, that we do have a dedicated instant cash offer purchasing team, purchasing specialist, who handle leads specifically and solely all day, every day. And I feel like a dealership who wants to commit to purchasing vehicles and back the process and back the partnership with Kelley Blue Book really need to have that dedication with staff, with funding, and anything else that goes along with it, to make sure that you're successful. We found that if you attempt to do it part-time, or when you get to it, there's a much lower level of success. The dedication of having a ICO specialist is paramount in all of the success that we've had so far. And to answer your question about how do we make it easy for the consumer, we offer validated appraisals of that Kelley Blue Book instant cash offer they received, both in person and on a virtual basis. So we complete virtual trade appraisals, virtual purchase appraisals, using technology such as video calls and so forth, similar to a Zoom chat or anything that's available that the customer would like. And we complete it that way, so that they don't even need to come to the dealership. So if there are any concerns about health conditions or travel time or anything else, or just convenience, it makes it much easier for the customer. Very similar to the way that a Carvana, a Vroom, or a CarMax may do remote appraisals or validations with their process. So we've done the same, but we feel like we've added that personal touch, which so far has been nothing but good for us.
That's terrific. And how do you then close the loop? Do you physically go out and pick up the car at the consumer's house? Or the majority of the time they're in need of buying another car, and so they're doing a traditional trade-in?
Well, Randy, I'd say it's some of both. Some ICO leads end up being somebody that's looking for a replacement vehicle, in which case they then see the value in having a validated vehicle offer prior to engaging the dealership and talking about a new or pre-owned vehicle that they'd like to replace it with, which that makes the process much more easy for the customer. The second type of lead would be somebody that's specifically looking to sell their vehicle outright and not replace it. In those situations, we offer an in-person consultation and completion of the purchase at the dealership. We also offer remote appraisals and also remote pickup of customers' vehicle if they decide that that's the way they'd like to proceed. And actually, we find that we have a mixed answer as to which is best for the customer. And I feel it's important that part of our process is we do whatever the customer would like us to do to make it easy for them. And that just piggybacks on what I was mentioning about if we make it easy for the customer, that transaction number and percentage will be much higher than it was in the past.
Yeah, definitely. Being very customer focused and customer centric has really helped you, it seems.
Absolutely. We couldn't do it without the flexibility and the constant adaptation that our team makes as the market and as the times change.
And how many times would you say, just in general, is it the cash, buying the customer's car for cash? Is it 1 in 10, half the time? What would you say?
I'd say of the leads, the majority that we've received recently, just looking at this year, are actual cash seekers. So folks with extra vehicles, extenuating circumstances where they may not necessarily need to replace the vehicle right away. I think that that's a bit tilted because of the fact that the market and the book values may be super heavy on that value for the customer. They may realize that if I'm going to sell this vehicle, I'll sell it now because I think the value is really advantageous. However, we do find a lot of, especially people with late model vehicles, are looking to replace the vehicle, whether it's something that we can assist with on a brand new vehicle basis or even a pre-owned basis. So there is definitely a lot of value in the fact that consumers like to do research before they get to that new vehicle purchase stage. They like to do research about their current vehicle and get a solidified offer so that they're equipped and feel knowledge on exactly what they should expect when they buy the vehicle that they intend to buy.
I think that's what's really fascinating right now, because to your point, consumers are doing research. Lately, car inventory has been in the news. Consumers can read about inventory challenges in the Wall Street Journal, where there was an article last week about it. And we all know that consumers, even before the current economic conditions, they often think that their car is worth more than the data tells us it's worth. So how do you approach those conversations, and how do you leverage Kelley Blue Book ICO in that process?
Well, our Kelley Blue Book ICO process heavily relies on the algorithm that Kelley Blue Book and the Instant Cash Offer program provide to us. I should say the result that it provides to us. The neat thing is, as a new and used vehicle retailer, we have the ability to both purchase vehicles for retail disposition or for wholesale disposition. And because there are factors that are included in both in the Kelley Blue Book Instant Cash Offer to the customer, we feel like it puts us in a good position to move either way. As it relates to the customer's condition of their vehicle, we review that in detail. We use the system exclusively to make sure that if there were any reconditioning items that may not have been indicated by the customer, we make sure that we review this with the consumer and have the explanation for them as to why there may be an adjustment due to something that was missed, or maybe they just didn't know. So having that transparency in the process has yielded a very, very high success rate for the dealership in purchasing vehicles, whether the value is the exact same amount as they received previous to us chatting with them, or if it has to be adjusted due to some factors that they didn't include in their first assessment.
It's a fascinating time when you're having those conversations today, I bet.
It really is. And I would add that specifically, your question that you just asked, that I just answered, is the differentiator between having that personal relationship on a local dealership level with a consumer and a consumer using an online used car purchasing website where there is no interaction. And so the differentiation there is really what we heavily rely on our instant cash offer specialist and our team here to explain those differences to consumers. And when the customer hears that and understands it, the ability for us to purchase vehicles is really unlimited. It's really, really a great thing. So we attribute a lot of our success to that personal interaction using the Kelley Blue Book Instant Cash Offer as the basis for the conversation. So
sure,
that's exactly how we do it.
I think it's you're being part of this community, to your point, for over 40 years as a Honda store, and since the early 1900s as a Chevy store. You have a level of trust with your Mohawk brand in your market, and then you combine that with Kelley Blue Book, and there is a lot more trust, I think, with the consumers you're talking to than there might be just with an online experience.
Absolutely. We found that Kelley Blue Book name is paramount for recognition for consumers. So they feel that it's not just Mohawk Honda or just another dealership giving an opinion, but there's some real data behind this, and this is a third party company that the consumers have known to trust for decades in itself. So that combined with the local presence here right in our community, the two things together make it a recipe for success.
That's great. I'm really curious to hear, Mike, how the consumer insights around shopping history that has recently been added to Instant Cash Offer, how that's changed maybe the way that you're engaging with consumers. Or are you engaging with them in a different way depending on the information you have about how they've been behaving online and shopping?
We are, yes. We've used the insight reporting as an additional conversation piece with the client. And when we do converse with people, we find that just about everybody wants to talk about their current vehicle search. And of course, those insights will give us some vision into maybe recent search history or vehicles in their household, or the algorithm that determines that there may be a certain intention with their shopping this time. And at the dealership level, we use that data to engage the customer. So instead of going into the room with your eyes closed and just trying to feel around, you're actually able to open your eyes and have a targeted conversation with somebody that knows that you're looking directly at them and their history, instead of going in completely in the dark. So it's been super effective so far. We look forward to the advancement. We see that the insights that are reported through our CRM, specific to the Kelley Blue Book ICO leads, continues to get more robust. At first, there was some information, and as time goes on, even in the last week or so, we see it being enhanced, and we can't wait to see what it's going to bring next. But very, very important to use that data for speaking with your customer and deciding exactly what direction the customer might be going in, and having that conversation to develop common ground and further emphasize the point that dealing with somebody locally that you can actually speak with and who may understand your wants and needs a little bit better than a website is very, very important.
Yeah, we've called that feature inside Instant Cash Offer buying signals. And do you see the number of cars acquired from a consumer with buying signals is higher than just the general consumer?
Yes, actually, we have tracked in the last 3 or 4 weeks our turnover from Instant Cash Offer, no replacement vehicle intended, when they're actually turned over into a sale or a vehicle intender, and that number has doubled. So what that means is that the data is so valuable that once we have those personal conversations with the customer about their wants and needs, they are turning over into a sale instead of just an outright purchase. So as the dealer, we get 2 wins instead of just one. We acquire the vehicle that they originally asked about the value on, and secondly, we gain a retail customer, whether it's for a new or pre-owned vehicle. So we absolutely seen an increase in closing new vehicle and used vehicle sales due specifically to the buying signals that are matriculated into our CRM.
That's great. I love the psychology here that in the purchasing journey that consumers go on, right? They're really proud of the knowledge that they've acquired in their shopping process, and so they're really proud to share that knowledge with you, which not only gives you a chance to create a better relationship and a more trusting relationship, but then allows you to maybe sell them another car as you understand their shopping history and what they're looking for. That's great.
Absolutely. One thing we know is that consumers, you and I, we trust our own research, and I feel like it's very valuable to reinforce the fact that the consumer has done their own research and applaud them for such, and especially as it relates to the value of their current vehicle and even the research that they've done on other vehicles, that the buying signals and the insights that we receive from Cox Automotive is super helpful to that. So couldn't be better partner with a transparent, up-to-date, cutting-edge type process that we do our best to stay in front of here at our dealership. And I would implore that all dealerships do the same in order to make sure that we're actually serving the customer.
That's great. Thank you for that feedback. What are the top 2 or 3 things that your team is really focused on regarding your store's performance, and where you're headed by the end of 2021? What's the 2 or 3 things that you're focused on to continue your success at your store?
We're heavily focused on employee development as it relates to that customer service point. We preach that we are a people first organization, and we don't just preach it, but we enact it every day. And that people first philosophy is not just employees, but it's also with our customers, and our partners, and anybody else that we come in contact with in the community. So what we have committed to is additional and incremental training as it relates to transparency, the processes that we currently have. Each of our departments are tasked and held accountable for improving our customer processes in every point, whether it be sales, service, ICO process, detail, or anything else. It's very important that we keep the customer on the forefront of our minds. And it's never been more important than in a market like today, where we cannot necessarily rely on the fact that we're going to have a steady stream of new inventory to sell. We can't necessarily rely on the fact that there is going to be a steady stream of reasonably priced used inventory to acquire. So it's very important that we make sure that we keep our 40 years worth of customers right next to us as friends and partners. So our main focus is to make sure that our training with our staff and our community involvement remains a top priority.
And that's really evident as we had our conversation today. Your success is really driven by being extremely customer centric. And I applaud you for that. It's awesome.
Well, thank you, Randy. It takes a lot of hard work, and the team is doing a great job, and we look forward to continuing through the rest of the year and past.
That's great. Mike O'Toole from Mohawk Honda, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate our opportunity to get to know each other better.
Thanks, Randy. It's an honor.
Have a great day.
You also.
And my thanks to all of you for listening to today's Dealer Voices conversation. Please share this podcast with any of your friends that you think could benefit from hearing these insights. Stay tuned for our next podcast episode, and thank you for joining us today. We'll see you very soon.